Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wandering Podcast, where we take advisement from outside the box. I'm Rihanna Ritter, your host. I'm an intuitive, sexuality, and authentic expression coach. Are you an accomplished professional who plays the part of having it all figured out? Who's strong for everyone else but feels lonely, misunderstood, like you can't tell anybody the truth about how stressed you are, how not passionate you are about your life and all that you've created? I guide my clients to deep, lasting fulfillment. I re-engage them with their bodies, their pleasure, their desire. I help them align to enjoy fulfillment and prosperity in all areas of their lives. Today, my guest is Lindsey Sozio, the founder of Lavender Coffee Boutique. Welcome, Lindsey. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So it's really awesome the way that you have changed kind of the view of what coffee should be like, because everybody's always in a rush, right? And they're trying to get their caffeine buzz to get them through the day so they can do all these tasks. So I'd love to hear your perspective on it and how you got started and became passionate about this.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I guess it started with my own routine. And, I have kids. And so I get up in the morning and I'm like, oh man, okay, what do we got to get done today? And let me get that coffee going. And I like getting up really early before them so I can have a moment to like just, peace and collect my thoughts, decide what I'm going to do for the day and how I'm going to approach the day intentionally. And so I was mulling on this thought of like, we need to think about how, coffee is a really important part of my daily ritual and, just helps me wake up. It just indicates that it's time to, plan out my day and get going. And I thought, well, what if we started this coffee company where, this is kind of the basis of it, because it seems like coffee so much is just lost connection. And so that was the foundation of it. And so we've started this brand that is health focused and wellness focused. We have a cafe here in Denver. Our first location opened about a year and a half ago. And, we really focus on hospitality and communication and finding a quiet moment and just like connecting with yourself and your community. And it's been going it's dreamy. It's been going well. We've got a lot of people who I think were really, really looking for something like this. And we found a really good, I think, target and a good market for it.
Awesome. So people kind of in search of community, people who are passionate about coffee,
Yeah.
passionate about wellness. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people don't see coffee as a wellness thing. So can you tell us why that might be? What's going on in the coffee industry and
Sure.
what's different about you?
Absolutely. So we actually roast all of our own coffees. We have a roastery here in Denver, and we source all of our coffees very purposefully, and we source them, from sustainable small farm holders around the globe. And so we start with that, and then once we get to the point where we're actually roasting the beans, we source specialty beans. So we actually have our coffees tested so that they're mold free and mycotoxin free. So they're healthier for you. And then we also roast to a softer profile for the coffee. So it's a lower acid for the most part in our coffees. We try to hit this profile that's just a little bit more well-rounded and not so like I'm drinking coffee, and is a little bit better for your gut health and being low acid. There are other benefits that come along with that, but still having like the antioxidants that are present in coffee.
Awesome. And what were you doing before you decided to do this passion project of coffee?
Well, I guess I've had a bit of a non-linear journey to get here. I started in advertising and marketing, And then after having kids, I, spent a lot of time dedicated to them. And then I started a small interior design business where I really focused on, creating comfortable spaces that are functional and practical, but also, lovely and timeless and classic. And then we came up with this coffee idea, and so I took, my two things that I've been involved with, which is, marketing and finding a brand voice and a brand story, and then also creating spaces that are comfortable and that people want to be in. And so that's how we formed, our first shop, and we're trying to um, I guess, communicate those attributes across our online platform as well. And, would love to have multiple locations. We're actually working on a couple more here in the Denver area, opening, over the next year or so. So, starting with that, and people, have responded really well to it. And so we'll take that sort of package and see where it goes.
Yeah. So I kind of remember when Starbucks was first around, it felt like it was very cozy and comfortable. And now it kind of feels like a little more industrial, like less, I guess because there are so many of them, right? So can you describe kind of what the feel is of your shop?
Sure.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we use a lot of sort of it's a lot of wood and warmer tones. And it's aesthetically pleasing, neutral colors, just like nice touches where, instead of having a wooden bench, we have a really nice like it's a upholstered, items and plants, and lighting is really important. I think that is something that a lot of people kind of miss on, and having layered lighting that just feels welcoming. And you walk into a space and you say, well, I'm not quite sure what it is about this space that I really like, but I really like it. And I think that's sort of my objective. It's like, you don't want to say, oh, it's definitely that chair over there, that's what's doing it. It's like, no, it's actually this whole combination of things that have come together in a way that you can't really put your finger on it, but you're like, I like this, and I want to stay here, and I want to hang out here, and I want to enjoy my coffee. And so, we also have really lovely ceramics that we serve our coffees in. And then if you get an iced drink, it's a nice, well-designed glass instead of just plastic cups. Obviously, if it's to go, it's a different story. But if you're staying and you're hanging out, then we really try to focus on the details and have a real hospitality first mentality, where our staff is all really well trained to ask you about how your day's going and know your name and remember your order. And then if you're sitting down, deliver the drinks to the table. And just trying to do, like, focus on those little details that I think probably have gotten lost at a lot of places, Starbucks in particular. But anyway, so we're trying to really lead with that, and make it someplace that people just want to hang out in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did your life unfold? It's always interesting to hear someone's journey toward wellness, because a lot of people they don't go down that path. They just, do their jobs and they do all their tasks, and they don't get interested in that really. They just follow whatever the guidance is of let's say, the US food pyramid.
Right.
So I'd love to hear how you got started on a wellness journey, if that was always something that you were brought up with, or if it happened later.
Yeah. I think it was something I probably was always brought up with, trying to make healthy decisions. And it's little things like limit sugar intake, and try to eat a well-balanced diet. But I guess I've always been not, and try to, exercise a lot and get fresh air, be out in nature. I think that's something that's really wonderful about being in Colorado. it's really easy, to be out in nature and to do activities that are, that bring you closer to being outside. And because everyone out here is doing it, that's what you do. So I think that's an easy one. As far as being, trying to live a healthier life, I believe in moderation. I don't think you should say, oh, I'm absolutely not going to have any cake anymore in my life. It's like, well, I mean, that's not realistic,
Yeah.
So I think just trying to moderate and say in the morning, especially, like, okay, I'm going to make this one healthy decision. And my healthy decision today is going to be, like, let's start with breakfast. I'll have a Greek yogurt with some berries, and then I'm going to have a coffee that isn't loaded with sugar. I just put a little bit of half and half in my coffee, and I don't actually add sugar. Or have like a cappuccino from our shop. And it's like, okay, I've made two like healthy decisions as far as what I'm putting into my body. And so I'm hoping that the rest of the day will follow, rather than starting with this, like, oh, oh man, I had the donut and I had the, sugar bomb from wherever for my coffee drink. And now the rest of the day is lost. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that happens from time to time, but, trying to wake up and say, okay, I'm going to conscientiously try today. And, this is the path, and I'm going to make one right decision, and hopefully the rest of the day will follow suit.
Yeah, I love that. I love not trying to tell yourself that you're going to be unrealistic about all of your choices. Like for me, Doritos is a thing for me, and I have gone years and years without ever eating them. And now I'm just like, you know what? If I want them once in a while, it's not that big to have a few. Like it'll be okay. But the making one decision a day and letting things flow from there is really helpful, because I think we all tend to overachieve and overshoot, and then we badger ourselves after when it doesn't work out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, for sure. And I think giving yourself some grace is like really helpful too. We got to be nice to ourselves and just, be understanding and just always try to put the next best foot forward. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of, well, because of the guidance on the US food pyramid, most of us believe that a lot of grains, carb, like the basis of our diet should be carbs, and sugar is kind of promoted. Like when we take milk and we take the fat out of it and just put some sugar in instead, it's like people think that low fat milk is a better choice. I think we just found out that our schools are putting in whole milk instead of low fat milk. So that's encouraging. Like we're
Good.
starting to get it right. Because
Yeah,
you
no,
mentioned half and half.
yeah, I mean, and their kids are growing. They need the benefits of that. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, focused on less sugar, more whole foods that aren't being modified by having things taken out or added. Or if, like in the case of coffee, not roasted to a point where it's creating carcinogens. Is that a thing?
I'm not sure. I don't know about that. I don't know that. I haven't heard that yet. But I do know, when you small batch roast and you're really thoughtful about your coffee, then you can bring out these really amazing flavor profiles. And maintain the integrity of the bean and the properties, like the antioxidant properties that are within that coffee bean, which is helpful,
Yeah. The
yeah.
antioxidants are a super important part of it. It's like I was talking to my daughter's friend this past week, and I was like, yeah, I eat dark chocolate as a vitamin, like really dark chocolate. I see that as a vitamin, not as a dessert. And she was like, what? It's like, yeah, there's not much sugar in it and it's full of antioxidants. When you don't overprocess it, it's actually really good for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there's I saw some study recently about, gut health and coffee. And so um I think there's more good information coming out. I think when you align yourself with a, healthier coffee routine, then it can be really beneficial. If you align yourself with a really not healthy coffee routine, then it's not so great. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think where people get their information is pretty important. If we're watching, let's say we're watching CNN and Fox News. Let's say we're like a person who wants two different perspectives because we want to get more toward the truth, instead of being extreme on one end or another. The news is not really that great of a source of information if we're really honest, right? So, where are some sources, like where do you source some of your information about health and wellness? Because it's clearly not probably going to be the general news channel or the
Yeah, well, I don't generally don't go to like TikTok or Instagram to find that kind of information. I think, yeah, like you said, I think it's important to kind of look at a broad spectrum of things and have an open mind, and try to try to understand lots of different perspectives before you decide what's the truth. Because I just feel like the truth is always somewhere in the middle, like you said. So I agree. I wouldn't say there's one source. It's all over the place. And um, I mean, I guess truthfully, I try to avoid the news a little bit because it's like it's hard to know what to believe and what's real and what's not. And sometimes it's just better to be like, okay, I'm I'm just gonna try to do my best today and and try to just stay in the middle of everything. So
yeah. I also am not. I don't watch the news because it's say I just get myself all hyped up and upset about things. I'd rather just try to maintain as much peace in my life as possible. And
yeah.
if there's something that is all over the news that there's really nothing I can do about, I'm not gonna spend my time stressing out about it.
Yeah.
And I was what was I listening to? I don't know, but it was just basically how people are watching the news, they're hearing all these horrific things, and then they have this feeling of hopelessness and like they have no purpose because they're filling their minds with things that don't, like, we can't I can't stop the war in Ukraine by myself. I don't
Right.
even know if it's still going on. But like, if you're focused so much on things that you can't do anything about, instead of creating something that is beautiful and wonderful and brings something awesome to the world, you're more likely to have anxiety, depression. And so, I would encourage people to fill themselves less with things that are upsetting and activating. I know we can get addicted to being really hyped up, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's I agree. I think trying to understand the sphere with which you can control things in your life is I think that's a really important lesson to try to understand for people. I agree. Um, because yeah, there's so much that's beyond your control.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we have little kids to raise,
Yep.
and it's I don't really want my kids to grow up thinking that they're powerless and they don't have anything to offer the world because they can't fix a global uh, economic crisis, for example, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know. I guess for my kids, I try to talk to them and teach them about just being thoughtful and trying to understand various perspectives and try to gather information before you decide you're going to speak on something or you're going to have a really strong opinion. because there is so much that, we don't know, and so much that we can't control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I see it happen on both sides, like the really spiritual stuff, like you can go way deep into that too, and I have.
Okay.
And I've also noticed, like, I don't know, if you have a pattern of, I don't know, perfectionism, people pleasing, whatever, or overachieving, let's go with that one. You can take that into every area of your life. So I was overachieving as far as like on the secular side, on the science side, I'm not going to believe in anything woo woo or spiritual. I'm just going to do finance and get things done and climb the corporate ladder. And that wasn't fulfilling. And I went and deep dived into spirituality and wellness and health. And, I brought that same energy to that and just way overdid it and got to a point where I just burned myself out. I just keep doing that. It's a pattern for me, right? So learning
Yeah.
to not come at things with such ferocity. I mean, what I found out about myself in that was basically that I just have like this inner child part that feels really unsafe and feels the need to overperform in order to feel worthy. Right. So I think a lot of us are dealing with that.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
I do. It's a tough, I think that I think there's so much that is, required of people. And, so many, I guess, different areas of your life. And so I think it's hard to try to maintain balance. And I think that if it's really, it's quite an achievement if you can. And I think that if you can find small ways in your life that you can say, okay, I'm feeling really stressed and anxious about something. Like, what is something I can do right in this moment to help me feel better and overcome this right now? And it could be as easy as like just stepping outside and taking a 10-minute walk and kind of resetting your frame of mind. Is it calling somebody and having a conversation that has nothing to do with, whatever else is on your mind? I guess for me, those are things that I find that help me to kind of get out of that sort of loop and get into like, okay, let's break this little pattern that's going on right now, and I need to just reframe and reset and kind of go outside myself for a second, outside of and just, I mean, literally go outside in nature is what I find is the most helpful for me, or to exercise, like let me just, or meditate. And I feel like those things are really, really helpful tools to have. And I think it's nice when you can realize that you do have those tools at your fingertips, and you have sort of you've sort of, figured out that those things work for you. I think that's a really nice place to get to.
Yeah. And as I think it's more common, maybe as business owners, for us to figure out that we've got to do stuff like that, because when you're the boss and you have to be every department and you have to lead people and try to get them to want to stay and like treat them in such a way that they might want to. When you learn how to really like be present with people and be a better leader, you have to come up with these different tools. I just didn't feel like when I was an employee, I was motivated to find things, to find more peace in myself. I was still very like stressed, but I thought that was a good thing. I think I thought it was, oh, it means I'm getting a lot done. And then when I went into being a business owner, it just wasn't going to happen. Like you can't maintain it, right? You can't do.
Yeah, you can't. It's really hard to maintain. It's really hard to, but I think I do think it shows really good leadership when you can say, okay, you know, this is what I need at this moment. And, you know, these things will get figured out, and it's okay that it's not getting figured out like right this second. It's okay that we take a little breather on it and we pivot. And I think, you know, if you can kind of, I don't know, I find that what's helpful for me is that if I approach things with the thought, like, I will figure this out. Somehow this will get figured out. I don't know how it's going to get there. And I don't know what the path is going to be, but I know that there's a path and I know that we're going to figure it out. And however it gets done, like it's going to be okay. And that's going to end up at the, you know, we'll look back and say, okay, well, that was a good way to get that done. But I think that a big lesson that I've learned is like, I do have to let go a lot and just say, okay, I'm letting go. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna come up with a solution. And it also requires, you know, myself and our team to say, you know, what are the things that we need right now? What are the things we need in the immediate? What are, you know, and then have goals that are set, that are realistic, you know, both personally and professionally. And then again, like also, you know, understanding what are the tools that I need to use and I need to utilize for both myself and my team to just make sure that everybody is, you know, on a path that they're happy with. And
Mm.
yeah, I think that's,
Yeah, that's beautiful to learn how to let go. Like that was the thing that I struggled the absolute worst with, was just being like you said, it's going to get figured out. It doesn't have to get figured out right now. I could not do that for years. Like I was just, I mean, it's really been pretty recent that I've been able to be like, I don't have to know the answer. Like, I don't know the way. I don't know everything. I'm not, you know, you hear people say that the term the buck stops here, right? It's like, kind of not though,
yeah,
actually, when you really,
yeah, yeah,
when you really learn that you're really not as in control as you think, and that it's ultimately for everybody in the team or in the environment or to be on a path that they're happy with, not necessarily your path, not necessarily your answer. I mean, I've learned that my answer isn't always the best answer. Like when you start to actually let go and you let other people do things and contribute the way they want to contribute, it's
yes,
magical and it's beautiful. And then that is one of the things that makes people want to stay and be on your team, because you're an actual team instead of a dictatorship.
right.
Right.
Yeah, no, I think that's yeah, and it's I think it's hard to find the team that kind of coalesces around that too, you know, because there definitely are probably some people that are, you know, it's harder for them to kind of break out of that shell, I think, and feel like they can have ownership over whatever is happening or whatever you're asking of them in that moment or whatever the project is. Um, and so I think it's, you know, it takes time to develop that team. And you know, there's, I guess, in being an entrepreneur and having new things coming up all the time, you're kind of like, well, there's a first time for everything. And so who wants to do this? You know, and you're like, let's just dive in and we're going to have to figure it out. And it's not going to be perfect. And I think that's the other thing is like, you know, and you make mistakes. Mistakes happen. Like things
Yeah.
aren't perfect. And it's rolling with that and it's learning from it and saying, okay, well, now we know that. And now we're going to do better the next time we have to do something that's like this. But yeah, I think just being flexible is like such a huge thing too. That's a lesson I've had to learn. It's like, let's be flexible. Let's like, you know, let's approach this with the mentality of like, yeah, we're gonna figure it out and we're gonna be okay. And it's yeah, it's a team effort. And I think having a team that really feels good about that in the end is, you know, a stronger team too.
Yeah. It's okay to make mistakes. That one is really tough for a lot of us because, you know, we've mostly been raised in kind of an authoritarian society, basically. Like the US is not some other countries that are really authoritarian, but
Right.
the way, I guess what happened with military drafts in the past, like a lot of the fathers having to go to war and being um, taught, basically like being trained in the military, then they come back and they start running businesses in that way. They start raising children in that way. And so in our homes, it's been a little more of a, for many of us, an authoritarian kind of upbringing. Like if you do something wrong, you get punished, and um, consequences, and just trying to get everybody to do things right. And it's so to now come into the perspective and realize actually we need to have a beginner's mind. We need to know that we're going to make mistakes. And I don't motivate my team by telling them they're a screw up and giving them consequences.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some of the things that you have done to find that team and develop that team?
Oh man. So we started with one, a team, and then I think, we've just, because I think people are really interested in what we're doing, we have a lot of people that actually come to us and say, I really love this sense of community you're building, and the product is so, your standards are high, and I want to learn from this, and I want to, learn how to, I mean, at the coffee shop, it's like, I want to learn how to do customer service. I want to learn how to, improve my latte art, could be some small thing, but we do have some really great trainers and people who are patient, and we're developing like more of a training program that our baristas can like graduate from, and then they feel like they've accomplished something. And so, we try to work on those kinds of things. And I think it's important to say, well, these are our standards, and this is, sort of what our expectations are. Um, but I also, yeah, I think that, just employing a mentality of we're all learning in this together, and, we are developing these new locations, and, let's learn together. And I think that's actually really, really helpful. And just saying, you don't have all the answers. Like we don't know how many people are going to want XYZ thing that we're producing, and but let's try it, and let's just try these things. And I think there's a lot of learning and failure, and just kind of being comfortable with that, and then being comfortable with then taking risks after that. Um, it's something I think is really, really hard to do, but it's something that we really, really try to do. Is like, let's continue to, push and take risks, and better ourselves, and, learn from the things that we've done so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's beautiful. Um, so I know that you're in Denver. How do can people order coffee online? Like, how do people connect with you and your
Yeah,
brand?
absolutely. So we do have a website. It's lavendercb.com. You can order coffee. We have subscriptions available, and we can ship it out really quickly. We produce everything here in Denver. And then we also are on Instagram, and our handle is at lavender.cb. And then we have our cafe open on South Pearl Street. The address is 1219 South Pearl Street in Denver. It's in the Platt Park neighborhood. It's a really fun little neighborhood that we love being a part of. It's an easy walking neighborhood, and so we've got lots of neighbors that are happy to pop in for a coffee. So yeah, those are the best places to find us right now. Hopefully we can continue to grow this and have additional locations in new cities and states. and, continue to develop our wholesale program.
Yeah, awesome. And I love how for you, people are finding you on your team. That's one of the great things about when you find alignment, when you find passion about something that you are creating, it's kind of an art is what you're doing. And so like it's creative, you're passionate about it. And that is kind of how you get into more flow, right? And how people find you, and things can get easier, and people are more inspired by you, and they want to join the team and learn from you. And so I wanted to highlight that. If there's anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off.
Sure. Let's see. I guess, we're really excited about what we're doing in the coffee space, and hope that this is a way for people to, connect with themselves, connect with their community, feel like they're making healthy, good choices, and, just being a part of, an everyday healthy wellness routine, I think is really our goal, providing tools for people to achieve that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending the time with me today, Lindsey. It's been great having you.
Thank you. I've had fun.
All right. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Bye.